Hey, friend, welcome and welcome back to Nosey AF, conversations about art, activism, and social change. Today on the show, I'm talking with Mahlena, who calls herself the Professor X for introverted CEOs. She helps founders, especially those in the education technology world, learn how to communicate their ideas clearly, confidently, whether that's on stage, in a pitch, or just in everyday conversations. In this conversation, Mahlena and I get into what it means to be an introvert in leadership, why public speaking is so difficult, and for so many people, how preparation and self-awareness can actually make presenting a lot more enjoyable. So with that being said, let's start our theme music and get into a lovely conversation with Mahlena.
Get up, tell the whole world you a winner. Vision of a star with a mission and a cause. What you doing, how you doing, what you doing, and who you are. Flex yourself, impress yourself. Check yourself, don't wreck yourself. If you know me, then you know that I be knowing what's up. Hey, Stephanie Graham is nosy as
Mahlena, welcome to Nosey AF.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so happy that you are here. So you call yourself Professor X for introverted CEOs. Can you please break that down for us? What does that actually look like in practice?
Yes. So, as Professor X for introverted edtech CEOs, I teach you how to talk to people. So, if you are a founder of a company like Duolingo or Khan Academy or Kahoot, then I help you make your next big presentation a success.
Do tech folks have an issue talking to people?
Well, I think everyone in general, across the board, most people have an issue with public speaking and presentations. So even though I focus on introverts and edtech because I'm an introvert, specifically an INTJ, and I have a background in education and I love education, there are people in every industry and every type of presenting themselves who have trouble with public speaking. And because it's something that I actually enjoy and understand that people can get overwhelmed by the concept of being on a stage in front of a bunch of people or even just speaking to one person, I can help them relax, relate, and release, meaning they prepare before, during, and after to make everything the best that it can be and actually have fun doing it.
Oh, okay. That sounds really good. What is INTJ? You said?
Oh, a Myers-Briggs designation.
Aha.
So if I forgot what they all stand for, but basically, I'm quietly judging you.
Oh, okay. Wait, Myers-Briggs, when you take that, can it change over time? Because I feel like I've taken that assessment a few times, and I feel like, does it change?
It can't like stuff can change. It's just the designation. I'm also a Scorpio, so yay, that's great. And I've taken the Enneagram and I'm a different number. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a way of categorizing people and to put people in different boxes. But for me, knowing that I was in a particular box really helped because there was a time between graduating from business school from USC in 2010 and then moving from Los Angeles to Toronto in 2018, where I was trying to figure out who I was and why I interacted with the world the way that I did. And having taken the test in business school and then remembering, oh, what does this actually mean? And looking it up, it really highlighted the ways that I interact with the world and why. And particularly the introverted part,
Mhm.
where I need to gain energy just being by myself, but also the combination of the other letters, especially the thinking and the judgment and I forgot what the intuitive, that's the N,
Mm.
really explains how I am so ambitious and override my introversion to get to the things that I want to do.
The Myers-Briggs test, for the listener that wants to take it, can they take that for free, or is it one of those paid tests?
Probably. I'm pretty sure there are sites that offer, like, you click on different things and it's a
Yeah,
quiz and you
yeah.
figure it out. There's a lot of different ways people assess themselves now, especially as business owners. So, whatever you take, don't take it as this is who I am and I can't change it or I won't change. It's just a snapshot of who you are now through a certain researcher's lens.
Okay. I like that. I remember I went to a workshop and they had all these guided prompts like, what's your Myers-Briggs? What's your Enneagram? What's your Hogwarts house? It was just like so many. So maybe I'll put a few in the show notes for the listener because, yeah, that's always a fun way to introduce yourself. But the Myers-Briggs, there's so many different letter combinations. I never know what they mean
There's
either.
16. And mine is the rarest for a lady.
Ooh, okay. I like that. One of a kind. A unicorn. I love it.
With other unicorns who are like, yep, that's us.
So you help folks with speaking. Is that because you have a background, you're a comedian, and then you're also a professional speaker? What did comedy teach you about connection and stage fright?
Well, comedy taught me a lot of things. And the main thing so I started doing stand-up comedy after business school because it was during the recession. And when my incoming class, I came in 2008 and we were told we'd have a 97% chance of getting an offer. And then in 2010, 50% of us graduated without an offer.
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, so what am I going to do? So there was a stand-up comedy class at West LA College that I took and then did that as I did other things at the same time. And the main thing it taught me was why I didn't do stand-up comedy before. And it was that I don't have the same need that comedians at the time have of getting a reaction from the audience. Like there are people who, the best stand-up comedians will do it and do it for years because they need that feedback from the audience of laughing at them. And I didn't really need that. So the path to being successful in stand-up comedy has changed a lot, especially over the past decade. But at the time, the idea was you go on the road after you do a bunch of open mics, and eventually 5 years in, you might be able to sustain yourself on doing that. And I was like, I don't think that I want to be on the road. One, because in Los Angeles, there are lots of places to do stand-up comedy, but not every night, and they're all far away from each other. Unlike New York, where you can do 5 sets a night because they're all in a row. You could take the train, but mostly it was like I don't love it enough to put so much effort into it and not be able to feed myself. And also that is leaving off the harassment of women and non-white people and just the weird discrimination and it's like dangerous positions that people are put in. If you've ever heard of a comedy condo, I never got to that level, so I never got to that danger. Which
Of a
great.
comedy condo?
Yes. So they're comedy clubs that want you to travel out there, but they don't want to spend the money for a hotel. So they have a condo that they put up people in, 3 to 4 people a night. But they're like comedians. So they're not all the same gender. You're not always in a room with a lock. So it can be really sketchy.
Yeah.
And there are comedians who have talked about what is on this sheet and who's coming in. And it's just not a great place to be.
Yeah.
But now there's different models now with the way that social media has progressed, which has opened lots of new doors for people who are comedians, but don't necessarily want to spend their life on the road in weird places that might not be welcoming to them. There's a lot of people who have found a lot of success online in different formats and who I follow and I think are hilarious. And I'm really glad that now in 2025, one of the things that I learned and have cherished is that there are new ways to do things and new opportunities to reach your audience with fewer gatekeepers and more accessibility to people with different abilities and different ways to speak to their cultures.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I took a comedy class, a stand-up comedy class, and it is very hard. And I did not go further with it or have not because I'm always like deathly afraid of somebody yelling like, shut up, fatso, or something like that. You know, I'm like, I just don't run.
That's a specific fear.
Yeah, or just shut up, ugly, or something like that. Or like, you're not funny. Like that whole heckling, I'm like not excited about that. I worked on a TV show. It was like the American Idol version of comedians. And so I got to learn a lot about comedy through coordinating these different shows. And then I just started to go see comedy out of just like knowing these comedians. And I
Was it
remember,
Last Comic Standing?
no, it was called
Who's Got Jokes?
Who's Got Jokes? Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that. Oh, I think if it was in 2006, then I probably was watching it.
Yes, Who's Got Jokes? I would coordinate like the Chicago auditions. And so then I would go see these shows. And I remember this one particular comedian, somebody was heckling her so much that she had to put her microphone down and was like hand and fist, yo, you're going to quit talking crazy. You know, like this has got to stop. And like other comedians were like, whoa, like getting up and stuff. And I'm just like, I don't want that to happen to me. That's okay.
No, I can definitely understand that fear, especially if you have been there. There are things, there weren't, so there are definitely times where I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad. But the good thing that I experienced in these short times that I did it was that other people in the audience were like, oh, that is bad. I don't like what he's saying up there. Ooh.
Yeah.
So there are definitely safe spaces that you can find and ask other people in the comedy scene in your area where would be a better place for me based on what you know about me. Would I be a good fit here or here, so that you're not going up for an audience who is primed to say something terrible? Because there are places where people are like, well, just be nice and give her a hand. And other places are like, boo, get the broom, shove her off stage.
That's like the scariest. But actually, as I'm saying that, that could happen for a talk, right? Somebody could be speaking professionally and also be yelled at.
Yes, that is true. Again, there are places where that is more likely to happen. The thing that I have found is that I'm usually in spaces that are more supportive. If you find yourself in a space that isn't supportive, that's your fault. Not at all. People should just be kind and understand. Most people in most audiences, wherever you go, especially if it's not comedy, if
Yeah.
you're just speaking about your product or about a concept like sustainable finance or trying to save the whales, most people are, okay, yay, we want you to do well, so this isn't uncomfortable for us if you lose your place. Most people
Yeah.
just want it to listen to the speech and then get back to the free coffee and snacks.
Okay, that's good to know. To like keep in the back of my mind, like, you know what, these people just want snacks. So let me just power through this and get through it.
And I have been in situations where people have messed up in
Yeah.
multiple places, and people are like, "It's okay, keep going." I mean, no one said let the spirit move you because it wasn't church or anything, but they're like, "You're doing fine."
This is speaking as ministry. Maybe it's your ministry, teaching people to speak.
I mean, maybe we'll see. But mostly, the thing that I want to do for people right now, my focus is people communicating with other people to achieve the thing that they want. Presentations and pitches are most prominent.
Yeah.
But the thing that is really my superpower is unearthing the superpower in other leaders,
Mm.
because sometimes it's just buried in there and people are like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I can't do this. And then I ask a few questions and they're like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way before. And then that superpower is now unlocked and open more than it was. So whether it's speaking or like just talking to another person or sending an email, I've actually said to people, send a message, see what happens. And then they took my advice and good stuff happened.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so like using the speaking to just sort of get confidence to just move forward, period.
Yes, take
Yeah.
action. And if you mess up, that's okay, but at least you're moving forward instead of staying where you are.
Yeah. So you grew up in the Virgin Islands, right? And then you, like you said, you lived in LA and now you live in Toronto. How have those moves shaped your sense of voice and belonging?
Well, the funny thing is that specifically about my voice, I was born in Arkansas and then moved to St. Thomas when I was 4 with my mother because that's where her family is from. And we are native Virgin Islanders, as at least my great-grandparents were on the island before it was sold from Denmark to the United States, which makes this technically native Virgin Islanders. We're not indigenous peoples that we know of. But the funny thing is that moving from Arkansas to St. Thomas and then to Los Angeles and now in the suburbs of Toronto, my actual voice, the way that I speak has stayed consistent. I mean, there's stuff that happens with my aging and other stuff as I get older, but my accent has stayed the same because I was raised by a VCR and a cable box. So I don't talk like people in Arkansas for the most part. I mean, some people probably obviously do talk like me because they get whatever their situation is. I do have a St. Thomas accent because I live there, and ergo, it's like I do know about how to be Black because I've been Black all my life. But yes, this is how I talk. And it's not like most. Well, there's a lot of evolution of islands and people moving and migrating. So there's a lot of different peoples on St. Thomas. So there's lots of different accents. And then, I mean, I just talk like me compared to, I don't have a specific Los Angeles accent, and there are many. And now I'm in Canada, and it is funny when I meet people who were raised here, and I'm like, wow, where are you from? And they're like, oh, I was born here. And I was like, oh, wow, that is a distinct accent. And they're like, it is? And I'm like, yes, it is. There are people that I continue to meet in Canada who insist, I don't have an accent. And I'm like, yeah, you do. And I hear it very clearly.
In Toronto, how are people feeling about Drake?
I mean, the people that would be Drake fans, like people a little younger than him, I don't really have that much contact with because I'm 43 and he's 38, but his fans are younger. So there are definitely Drake stans wherever you go in the world. But I will put it this way. I went to a certain event and I was surprised, but also entertained when these children did their dance to Not Like Us.
Right. That's what I was curious about. Like, ever since that, like, what are they thinking about him out there?
There's definitely Canadian culture, and their Canadian cultures there's
Sure.
provinces and territories and peoples. But the thing about Canada is I have never seen a Canadian story on any U.S. news.
Mm-hmm.
There are always United States stories on Canadian news.
Oh,
So the
okay.
permeation of the culture is intense, as
Huh.
I'm sure it is in other countries. But yeah, it's not like Canada was in a bubble and has no idea who this Kendrick Lamar is. No, they're very aware, and
Yeah, of course.
it's just because Drake is Canadian doesn't mean that everyone likes him.
Yeah. I feel like when I visited Toronto before, pre-Kendrick, and people were in love, but I haven't been since the, post-Kendrick, and curious what has taken place.
People I associate with are usually other entrepreneurs and organizations and aren't really talking about musical industry conflicts. They're like, "Whoa, who's the good VC and what should I do? Should I have it?" Well, I mean, they're not talking about IPOs, but yes, they're not really talking about musical culture.
Interesting.
Even when they find out that I'm from the United States or specifically from Los Angeles, that's not the circles that I run in. Now, if you were talking to someone like, say, at U of T or TMU or York who are in university and going to the clubs and doing their 20-year-old thing, they would have very specific opinions. And I was very proud when I heard Not Like Us play at the Democratic National Convention with Governor Gavin Newsom, surrounded by these other California politicians, all of whom I knew and all of whom were trying to get into the camera to be there. But yeah, about like hip with the kids and they're like, it might not even be a thing like it was a year ago.
Huh.
Something else.
Yeah. Well, you recently became a Canadian citizen.
I did in 2023.
Yes. How fun. What was that process like, especially as like a Black woman navigating American Canadian cultures?
I think that the process for becoming a Canadian citizen was less influenced by my Black Americanness and more by my overall the fact that I am a United States citizen. So our family had as I've told people before, the immigration process from United States to Canada is the easiest. Canada, the United States, it's not as easy. And any other country to Canada is also not as easy. Maybe the UK is easier. But yes, it was definitely more influenced by my passport privilege, which is a phrase that I learned upon arriving here. And the whole process from the time that we decided this is what we're going to do in 2016 to when it actually happened in 2023 would be about 4.5 years from when we moved in 2018. So the process was relatively smooth because we are American citizens with resources and like emotional support from our families. And we were fortunate to be able to do the things that we did. Like I was able to get into Seneca Polytechnic, which allowed us to bring our family.
Seneca Polytechnic.
Oh, it used to be Seneca College. It's now Seneca Polytechnic. It's essentially a college. I went to a 1-year program for social media and graduate certificate. I
Oh,
also
okay.
guest lectured while I was in the program, which was great. Yay. But essentially, we got permanent residency in 2020. And then we had to make sure that we had enough days in Canada to then apply for citizenship. We had to pass the test, and I learned a lot about Canadian history, and yet not enough. I did pass the test, which was great, but that was the thing that I was like, I am studying for this. I read the manual. I played the manual on audio wherever I went so that I knew everything that was in the manual that could come up on the multiple choice test. And then we and a bunch of other families did everything online. And then they said that you are now Canadian citizens. Yay. And we got our passports. So that is great.
Yeah. And so then do you hold a dual citizenship then?
Yes.
Now? Yeah. Okay. Cool. But each time you'll travel, you'll always use your Canadian passport because you are
We
living
use
in.
both
Okay.
depending on where we're going.
I see.
We're not like world travelers. Mostly we're just trying to do our best with where we are. But yes, it depends on where we're going.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I love that. Congratulations. I know that that's like a big thing that, since the whole current administration, folks have been like, you know what, we're out of here. And so, yeah, it's become a hot topic. I know, like, even in like my own community of folks, I've had friends, relocate most recently to Costa Rica and, like in Europe. And so, yeah.
Yes, it was a hot topic for me and my family in 2016 in November. And we said, this is what we're doing. And then after we moved is when I started finding other creators, specifically on YouTube, who are like, this is what you can do as a Black American to move away from the United States. I'm like, where were you before when I needed the community?
Right.
But I'm glad they're there now. And I have met with multiple of them, which is great. But yeah, it's nice that there are people who are, anyone who asks me about my experience, let them know when I listen to them and answer any questions that they may have. But also it's nice to have other people who are, I wouldn't just say commoditizing this, but making it available for people to know about and not just say, I did this, but this is how.
Yeah. Just like this step-by-step guide, super helpful. And then like people to reach out to, Facebook groups, all of this stuff to be like, yeah, so you're not doing it alone.
Yes.
Yeah. And hopefully you can make friends when you get there,
Yes, that is especially helpful, particularly in places that you have a different language. So it is important to, wherever you go, that you meet people who are there and who have ties to the country and have lived in the country, in addition to the other immigrants or expats, if they're leaving, to know from your home country. So it was nice to have a community of people online that we connected with before we moved here so that there was stuff that we could expect and just basic stuff that we knew we needed to set up and why and how. But also to not limit yourself to the other US citizens who are in whatever country you're in, because people can do that, and it's it's not, I would not advise that as the only experience to have.
Yeah. You are a Murder, She Wrote fan?
Yes.
What a dream. You are holding up, wait, put it back in the screen so we could tell the listener that, Mahlena put up her Murder, She Wrote season 3. Look at Angela is just sitting back with her portrait. I love it. How were you introduced to Murder, She Wrote?
It was probably on one day when I was a child. Also, I probably watched it occasionally when I was growing up, but also Angela Lansbury was in Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So that was one of my favorite movies. And I also watched the show again when it was airing on A&E while I was in college. And so that was fun. And then it came back to me because it was on Netflix when I was in business school, and I had a tiny computer. I could hook it up to Wi-Fi. And then while I was waiting for my class to start, I could watch an episode. And then it went off Netflix, and I was like, oh, this is terrible. But then a couple years ago, I think either last year or the year before that, I got the first DVD. Actually, between that, I was on a Murder, She Wrote podcast in Los Angeles.
Fun.
And yes, I appeared on the podcast. It was fun. And then we moved, and eventually we moved again. I wanted to partake in Murder, She Wrote. And I had also noticed, and people had said, that shows that were syndicated were now on streaming services, but they were in the syndicated format. So they cut out stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get the first DVD and see if this is something I actually like. And I loved it. So I got the whole set and the made for TV movies. So I am working my way through the whole series.
Are you familiar with Angela's workout video?
I saw part of it, and then there's one where she's in the bath.
Yes. I believe after the workout, it's like what she suggests you do, take a bath, which I love because she wears these really jazzy like sweatsuits throughout the whole tape. And I'm just like, you know what? I could totally get behind this. And when I had heard about it, I was like, oh my God. And it was like the first thing I looked for in Angela Lansbury workout. I'm just so curious, like, how, like that she has like such a big fandom. And I was just curious, like, if it informed your creative world at all.
It probably had. Like, there was this part in earlier this year where I was thinking of a show within a show that I wanted to create for the characters in this show. It's the pilot that I wrote in 2020. It was called Lenny the American, and it was based on my experience moving to Canada, and specifically Ontario. And I didn't do anything with it because it was literally the second script that I wrote during the pandemic. And then I got up to 6 scripts. So then that was shelved. And anyway, the point is that I had this idea of this cozy murder mystery inside of the show that the characters watched and enjoyed.
Oh,
but
fun.
I haven't done anything with it. There's other ways that Murder, She Wrote and Get Smart and Daria have all affected me. There's a slew of NBC shows during must-see TV that have affected me. So stuff that I watch and read and consume definitely affects my humor patterns and the things that I say and think are funny. So Murder, She Wrote has definitely affected me both during my childhood and college and business school and now, and has provided, like, most episodes are fine. Some of them are not. They do not hold up and should be kicked out of the series. But it is nice to have a show that started in 1984 centered around a single woman who wanted to stay single and is very smart and usually emotionally intelligent and sometimes gets in over her head, but usually is the smartest person in the room and can figure out stuff and wants to do her best and bring out the best in other people.
Yeah. A dream woman, really. So, like, I know that's your, like, how you teach people to like speak in public. You teach people how to tell their story in 10 seconds.
Yes, a 10-second elevator pitch.
Okay. And like, how long does that take for them to learn this? And like, how do you
Well,
do this?
like, it's more of a theory. So for example, I went to a networking event. I was online. You're supposed to go around and say what you do. And I said, I'm Professor X for Introverted edtech CEOs. I teach you how to talk to people. So that's approximately 7 seconds. And I've been working on it for 2 years. So it's not like it just came out one day and people are like, wow, that's amazing. I'm like, yes, it takes a while, but it's also something that I enjoy doing. And I'm actually going to be working on my headline for my LinkedIn to see if something resonates more with people. So it's basically the idea is not what we were actually told in business school to say this to someone in case you're on an elevator with them, which people actually do. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of weird. Why don't you just talk to people like people? And that really works for me, unless they ask me what I do. But essentially, it's saying who you are and what you want and why you want it in a short sentence. And people get really freaked out about it and they get all icky about it because they're like, ew, I don't want to. Elevator pitches are overrated. They're the worst. They're for salesy people.
Yeah.
And they make me feel cringe. And I'm like, okay, that like all that is fine and all that is
Facts.
true. But the reason why I put it in my bio is that it's a writing exercise that makes you focus on what it is exactly you do and why. Because there are lots of people that I encounter in different business programs that I have been in who have a product or a service that they love and they say it can help everybody and I'm going to sell it to everybody. And I'm like, okay, how's that going? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, it helps to be able to tell people what you can do succinctly, and it's more for you than them. There are people who I've also said, can you put a 30-second video of what you do on your LinkedIn profile or on your website? So when I tell people about you, I can forward them the link to the video. And they're like, oh, okay. So it's not so much that everyone needs an elevator pitch. You don't. But it makes it helpful for you to know what you're doing and why. And for people who want to share about you to other people to have something succinct, like you're a Ferrari whisperer or you're a yacht guru or something that's, oh, this person works on cars or this person works on boats or this person has an AI robot who builds houses.
How does it work when you are like yourself, like a multi-hyphenate? I think about listeners who are, even myself, like multidisciplinary in their practices. How do you make that pitch then? Do you have, I think if I'm talking to people, it really is similar to what you were saying, like it's just talking to people. Depending on who's talking to me, depends on what I'll say. But in the written format, I don't know. Just how do you do that when you're, or like an actress? Like, how would an actress make their elevator pitch?
Well, you have to decide what's most important to you and when. So I wrote a LinkedIn post recently, might have scheduled it or might have been published, but I talked about personal brand. That also makes people feel icky because
Yeah.
they're like, what? I'm not Coca-Cola or Maybelline. I'm a human being and I have many things and I'm worth more than, a pizza slice. Yes, you are. But this was specifically for introverted edtech CEOs, but it also applies to people who are in this job market where people have been laid off by the hundreds of thousands, and now you're trying to find a job. And let's say you're an accountant. There's lots of accountants out there, and there's lots of people who want to hire accountants. But why are you a particularly good accountant for the role that you're targeting? So the easiest thing to think of is if you're speaking to a particular person, ideally you're having a conversation with this person. So you're not just, hello, my name is, and this is what I do. but you're learning about it's a conversation. But if you're just like, what should I put in my LinkedIn profile if I'm an accountant and I want a job, which is something that pops up on my feed often, people saying, I'm open to this and I've done this. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to do now? For whom and why? And people get it validly very nervous because in some cases they haven't looked for a new job in a long time, especially if you are a former government worker who has been laid off, or someone has just gotten a new job and are now getting laid off 7 months later. And they're like, well, what did I do wrong? And it's usually nothing about you.
Yeah.
But let's say you are an accountant, what kind of place do you want to work for? You may have worked for, let's say, banks or schools or law firms, but what do you want to do now? Okay, you want to work for an ad agency. Okay, what type of ad agencies do you want to work for? These types. And in, let's say, Florida for some reason, because I like whatever it is they like about Florida. Okay, which ad agencies in Florida do you want to work for and why? Then let's say you say that you want to work for a ad agency who focuses on athletics for Florida colleges. Now you need to highlight in your profile why you would be a good fit for an ad agency who works with Florida colleges and universities in their athletics department. And that means not necessarily scrubbing your whole profile of nothing, but highlighting the things that fit there and also creating content, videos, articles, a portfolio that shows why you would be a good fit. So now you're not just an accountant looking for a job, you're the best accountant for a Florida ad agency who's looking to sign Florida State University. And then you highlight that with the people that you talk with, especially when you are visiting the Floridians.
I think that's really great advice. I also wonder when folks do that, what if like Michigan is looking at this accountant? Are they going to say, oh no, they want to work in Florida? But in reality, maybe that profile really would work in Michigan. I guess I think about folks who's look, I just need a job. I just need a check.
Mhm.
And they
Yes.
also might have their side business. So like they're trying to make their LinkedIn profile for whoever comes across it.
Hmm. So I understand that. Here's the mindset that
Mm-hmm.
will shift your thinking. Most people aren't looking at your profile. They aren't going to stumble across it because
Okay,
most people are
okay.
not on LinkedIn. Like there are literally over 1 billion people who have LinkedIn profiles. Only 1% or fewer of people on LinkedIn post anything ever in addition to their profiles. People aren't going to stumble across their profile unless they're looking for something or unless it's something that they're interested in. So the likelihood of someone at a Michigan ad agency who does athletics for, let's say, a Michigan State is going to find your profile and show how you can do this great stuff for Florida State. I don't think they're going to stop and say, well, that's Florida. Gotta go because they're not seeing other people's profiles doing the same thing. Most people
Uh-huh.
don't post, most people aren't looking. And so you might worry that you're repelling the
Yeah.
entire Michigan community of ad agencies for athletics. But the thing is that instead of worrying about who's looking at you, because most people aren't, start thinking about who you want to look at. So if
Okay.
you are worried about Michigan seeing something that you've created for Florida, create something for Michigan and start sending it to those ad agencies because they weren't looking anyway, but now they are. And if they happen to see what you've done for Florida, they'll be like, oh, that's cool. I like what you did for me specifically. So there's a proactivity in it, in that people are thinking that everyone's thinking about them all the time and all their mistakes. And I might say something that might offend somebody. Yes, that's true. But most people are just thinking about themselves. So start positioning yourself not as someone who is a Swiss Army knife, but
Mm-hmm.
show how you are a great tool, like you are a screwdriver that can do something for a Florida ad agency, a Michigan ad agency, a British ad agency that only does football stuff for universities there. So take control over what you want your persona and brand to be, and then show it to people so that you're not worrying about what these people are seeing when they are attracted to you, because most people don't have that kind of time.
I see. I love this just turned into a little like LinkedIn crash course because I have one more question about this.
Okay.
So, say we have our ad agency persona, but you're also a painter. Can you say you're an ad agency person plus painter and then also show your paintings and all of that as well?
You could. It depends on what your goal is at the moment. So, I will give you a personal example. I started a YouTube channel a
Mm-hmm.
while ago, like I think over a decade ago now. Then I started another one specifically for me instead of for the web series that I was creating, which was a fictional web series.
Okay.
My current YouTube channel that I do most of my stuff on, Mahlena Speaks, has all the stuff that I created back in 2016 and 2017 when I was trying different business ideas, like increase your GRE verbal score for non-native English speakers who want to take the GRE. And then it was write your first book with Mahlena, and
Mm-hmm.
I detailed that. And then most recently, before my focus on presentations and strategic communication, there are videos of my past projects. So there's a table read for my tween comedy series, and there's me reading from my sci-fi dramedy series that I pitched at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
But now most of the new videos are focused on introverted edtech CEOs who want to make their next big presentation a success. So if someone's interested in my past work, they can see it. But right now, my message is I'm working for educators who want to change the future of learning. That's what I'm doing. I also have books available, and you can find them if you want. But that's the thing that I am telling people, because that's what they're focused on. They're not going to be like, that's nice too, but I'm really here for communication. So that's what we're going to talk about. It's okay to like multiple things. It's what you want to focus on now, and that's your thing. And it's also okay to go to other people's platforms who are, let's say, interested in painting and say, I love that painting. Here's a link to my paintings,
Mm.
which may be a different website or just a different web page on the same website, so that you can, like, lots of people like different things. Some people don't like anything and don't post anything about themselves. It's okay to have a lot of stuff you like, but you get to decide the message that you share with the person in front of you. And I actually did that with someone who has one podcast, and I'm going to be on her second podcast talking about two different things, but they're still relevant because there's a connection there and there wasn't a problem.
Yeah. I have my podcast on my LinkedIn. People better like that I do.
I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna dislike it, but I think people will. It gives a different dimension because it can be so, like, some people are sharing a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm like, wow, that's too much for me personally. But okay, it is nice to have a dimension of a whole person who has something besides I'm in graphic design and I have graphic designs. Also, I like poodles, and they have a picture of the poodle. But we're not focused on poodles right now. But maybe you have a link to your poodle podcast
Mm-hmm.
where people can learn more about your poodle enthusiasm. But you want them to hire you as a graphic designer.
Yeah. And really brief, this is a perfect shout out for the LinkedIn Lunatics Reddit thread. It is off the chain, the types of things that people post. They like, folks will like pull, like, look at this person that's like in the hospital, like they tried to get Botox and it like backfired. Now they're in the hospital and they're like posting about it, but trying to like shape it into some type of like thought leadership. It is just a good time. LinkedIn lunatics on Reddit, please do yourself a favor. It's just pure foolishness. Oh my gosh. Well, Mahlena, I love that you're like how you will teach folks to speak as, speak in public, speak on paper, speak on LinkedIn. Like it is such a well-rounded approach where usually when I think of folks saying, "Oh, I help speakers," I think of folks who are like trying to be, on the next TEDx stage or something.
Well, I am trying to be on the next TEDx page, but specifically, I help people who have to speak. So people who founded their company
Sure.
and they're like, "Oh, I got to do this now. I just want to code or I just want to mold stuff or build things out of Legos." So it is more of a, okay, we're going to do this and I want to have fun with it. Mahlena likes to have fun.
Yeah, I love that. That's wonderful. And I love that you will be on TEDx.
Okay.
Or TED. Isn't it like TED Talks and then TEDx? Like they have really blown up and they're all over the place.
Well, TED is the main big one in Silicon Valley, and then TEDx can be anywhere. They just have to have the license.
Oh, okay. Could I host like a Nosey AF TEDx?
Yes, you could.
Huh. Okay. Something to think about. Well, hey, if you could write like a headline for your life right now, what would it say?
Well, my word for 2025 is genius, as I am a
Ooh.
Mensa certified genius.
Wow.
Mensa.
That's amazing.
Woohoo!
What's that like, being a Mensa certified genius?
I mean, there's probably gatherings that I could get involved with, but they're not as convenient as they were in Los Angeles.
Oh, that's a flex.
It is something that I have brought up more recently, as there have been more, especially with the 300,000 Black women being laid off of jobs in the United States, that there is this rhetoric of DEI and that a Black woman has stolen a more qualified white man's job, even though we are the most educated demographic in the United States and one of the lowest paid.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that genius is my word for the year is, one, the book Big Leap Year by Gay Hendricks, and you're supposed to focus on your zone of genius as a way to be in the world. But it's not just, I'm not someone who gatekeeps genius, like I'm a genius, so therefore there is no more pie left for anybody. No, the idea is to bring out every person's genius, especially the people that I interact with, because there's so many people that I interact with who do not celebrate what is special about themselves or just something that is good about themselves. And I do like being smart.
Yeah, heck yeah.
I do like being a gifted lady who appreciates education and is really passionate about it. And I've written a book called The Last Minute Guide to Apply to College for students and families overwhelmed by the U.S. admissions process to college and universities. But also it's that I want education to be for everyone. And by my stating my genius and sharing it, it is not a way to be like, look at me. Like, you can look at me if you want, but it's also look at you and how can you contribute to the world instead of thinking that you aren't good enough for whatever reason. I'm here to say you are good enough, and please share what you think is special and how you can make the world a better place like I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you're doing it. That's awesome. I wonder now if there's a Mensa sweatshirt.
They have merch.
Streetwear brand. Oh, okay.
They have stuff that they're trying to sell.
Well, that is awesome. How can folks work with you? Do you do like group coaching or like one-on-ones, or how does it work?
Well, my focus right now is one-on-one coaching. There's a Conquer Performance Pressure program that I came up with.
Okay.
It's specifically for people who have a presentation coming up that they want to make a big success, that they want to have fun with, and to ideally connect with the people that they are talking with. So that's the main thing I'm focusing on now. As I do more of those connections with people, I would like to have a group program.
Yeah.
So that is in the works. But essentially, the best way to connect with me, whether you have a speech that you want to give or not, is to connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Mahlena. And you can just put the first part of my first name into Google, Mahlena, and you'll find everything about me. What I would most like to do with people is to have conversations with them. So just say, hey, you sound like a cool person. Let's have a convo. And I'll be like, all right, let's do. So that's the easiest thing to do to connect with me. And we could have a virtual coffee chat or hot cocoa chat.
I love that. Mahlena, if somebody is going to be like a best man, could they work with you? Yeah, like a best man speech.
Yes, I
Yeah.
immediately thought of The Best Man. Like
The movie?
someone's going to be in the next movie. But yes, they can work with me for that speech too. I hadn't considered that, but that's
Mhm.
why Stephanie's here to give me new ideas. So yes,
Yeah.
if you have a best man speech and you're worried about it or you're excited about it, just find me and send me an email and we will talk.
I love that. I love that. Yes, because it is speaking, period. Wherever we got to speak. Ooh, something came to mind. Speak to the manager. I don't know why. I need to speak to the manager. Workshop with Mahlena on how to ask for the manager.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have spoken. I've never said I want to speak to the manager, but I have spoken to escalated a situation in a polite way to make sure that I'm like, is something going on? Like, it's never something that is, I just want to put someone in their place. It's usually something, there's a glitch in the system, especially now that I'm in Canada and not everything ships here the way that it used to ship to Los Angeles. So there usually has to be a manager involved. And I always speak to people kindly. Just be kind to people, not nice, kind in a way that we can have a win-win-win situation.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Mahlena, thank you so much for talking with us today on Nosy AF. I really appreciate it.
Well, you are welcome, and thank you for having me, Stephanie.
This has been another episode of Nosy AF. I'm your host, Stephanie Graham. If you liked what you heard today, go ahead and give Nosy AF some love by leaving a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. It helps folks who find the show think, ooh, if they like Nosy AF, I might like it too. You can find full show notes and transcripts at nosyaf.com, and while you're there, sign up for my newsletter, Good Stuff Only, where I share studio stories, fresh art, messy ideas, and each month's episodes straight to your inbox. Thank you so much for your time today. Until next time, stay curious and take care. Bye.